What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, and I have got some massive news to bring to you all today. Erling Haaland's bid has been accepted. They have released his 60 million release clause, and he looks to be set on his way to Tottenham Hotspur. No, I'm joking. It's just April Fool's, guys. But what I have got to bring to you today is a top 10 list of players that nearly signed for Tottenham. There are some really good players on this list. I've got Simeon here with me to do it. How you doing, Sim?
Hi, guys. Yeah, quarantining along. It's always been all right. Trying to keep myself busy, but yeah, I'm okay.
Good. Shall we get cracking?
Let's do it.
All right. And coming in at number 10 is Pierre Emerick Aubameyang when he was at Saint Etienne. Do you want to tell us the story, Sim?
Well, yeah, Tottenham apparently were in talks with Saint Etienne, and it went as far as Aubameyang meeting Daniel Levy in a hotel room. I think he said, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. However, Aubameyang said upon leaving that meeting, there was something very weird about Daniel Levy and the chairman. He got a very weird vibe from Tottenham. And I think there was something weird about the negotiations, the contract negotiations. I don't think he was happy about it. And he ended up getting, I'm not quite sure why, but there was quite a bitter ending to it. And he said he would, after that, he said Tottenham are a weird club and he wouldn't join them. And then the rest is history.
So classic. After spending a bit of time in a hotel room with Daniel Levy is probably enough to drive anyone nuts, to be honest.
Exactly. And then he went on to join Dortmund, and now he's banging the goals for the Gooners.
Yeah.
But he's a Europa League specialist now.
Yeah, he is. Let's move on swiftly, and that is to number 9. And coming in at number 9 is a player playing in the Premier League right now in João Moutinho. This was a rumour that came a lot of times, didn't it? And there was one summer where he literally looked nailed on to join Tottenham, and just Porto, I think, just was sloppy in getting the paperwork over the line.
I think it was us. Probably Levy trying to leave it as close to deadline day as possible.
No, but it was on deadline day, and it was all rumoured to go through on deadline day. And then apparently the fax machine wasn't working or something like that, you know?
Yeah, it's classic Levy, leaving everything to the last minute, and then obviously it blew up in our faces. That was under Andre Villas-Boas. Obviously, he was a Porto man. He came to manage Spurs after his stint at Chelsea, but he knew Moutinho well from his days at Porto, so he wanted to bring him in. It looked like Tottenham were finally going to get their man, but yeah, as you said, the slow fax machine. I'm not sure. I think it was a combination of Porto being slow, Tottenham not getting the fax across in time, and unfortunately Spurs just ran out of time at the end of the day, and we ended up never getting Moutinho. And we didn't get him then. We didn't get him in January. And we never got him ever. Actually, you know what? I would have taken him when he signed for Wolves. When he was, they signed him for $5 million. It looks like an absolute bargain at that price. Looking at how he's performing in the Premier League, what a player he is. And he, we signed Dembele that summer. I don't know if it was instead of Moutinho, but we ended up signing him. So it wasn't worst at the end of the day, but Moutinho would have been a great addition.
Yeah, he would. And I just remember the hashtag as well at the time was Moutinho by midnight, because we were going to announce him on the deadline. But anyway, let's move swiftly on. And at number 8 is an interesting one, and that is David Beckham. Now, David Beckham was in the Spurs Youth Academy, was deemed not good enough. Well, it wasn't deemed not good enough, but he decided to choose Manchester United ahead of Tottenham. And then later on in his Spurs career under Harry Redknapp, he nearly joined Spurs again, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think it was January of 2011 during the window. He was looking to go out on loan after he'd had a successful spell, I think, at AC Milan the previous January. And I think Spurs, obviously Redknapp knew him well. I think there was actually quite advanced talks between Beckham and Redknapp and Spurs were to try and get him on loan for a few months, try and get him to Tottenham. But I think at the last minute, it broke down again. Probably, I don't know if he was asking for too much wages or whatnot. But unfortunately, we just couldn't get the deal over the line, and it never happened. But I think he ended up joining AC Milan again. But what a deal that would have been if we would have seen Beckham in a Spurs shirt. He previously said, if not Man United, Tottenham would be the only other team he'll play for in the Premier League, because I think his grandpa, I believe, was a Spurs fan.
Correct.
So I think he had strong connections with Spurs. But again, Tottenham not being able to get the deal over the line, that would have been something very special if we had Beckham on our right wing for a few months.
Do you think even then, under Redknapp, it would have been special, or do you reckon he was past it by then?
I actually think he had a few more good games left in him. I remember when he played for AC Milan, he played quite well. He was actually quite good for them, and he put in some very good performances. I remember Harry Redknapp saying at the time that we don't have any good crosses of the ball in our team. We had like Aaron Lennon on the right, who wasn't great, but obviously we had Peter Crouch up front, who thrives on someone who's really good at crossing. And he said, we need someone who's deadly at crossing like Beckham, and Beckham would be a massive asset for us to be pinging balls into Crouch, because we don't get too many good crosses into the box. And obviously, if we would have signed Beckham, things could have turned out different. We end up falling short of fourth that season, so who knows what would have happened.
All right, and next up on the list at number 7 comes the great Samuel Etoo. In 2002, whilst playing for Real Mallorca, he was playing for Cameroon against England, and he nutmegged Sol Campbell and then slotted it a lovely finish into the goal. And he dedicated that goal and the nutmeg to the Tottenham fans after the game. And I've got some quotes here from Samuel Etoo. I met with Glenn Hoddle with my agent in Madrid 3 weeks ago and discussed a possible move to Tottenham. I like the way his teams play and I would be keen on a move to White Hart Lane. That is why when I scored against England and I nutmegged Sol Campbell, I was thinking of the Tottenham fans and I would like to dedicate that moment to them. What a guy. If only we could have got that one.
Yeah, if only what a signing that would have been. If only we would have had Samuel Etoo starting up front for Tottenham. Obviously, I think that season, I think it's the summer we just signed Robbie Keane. So imagine a partnership of Etoo and Robbie Keane up front. How good that could have been. That would have been brilliant. Obviously, we were stuck, I think, with Sheringham and Les Ferdinand for the remainder of that season. Those old legs trudging around the pitch trying to do their best. But such a shame that we never got that one over the line. Samuel Etoo up front for Tottenham, seeing the career he's had as well. I mean, he's
a young Samuel Etoo as well.
One of the world's best strikers. He was up front for Barcelona for many years. Went on to win the back-to-back trebles with Barcelona and Inter Milan, and then obviously he played for Chelsea as well later on.
And scored a winning goal in the Champions League final against Arsenal as well.
Yep, what a player. I think it was equaliser actually, but what a player that
Belletti scored the winner,
Yeah, what a player that he would have been, man. He was so good back in the day.
Yeah.
So electric. He was like Jermaine Defoe times 10. That's what he was.
100%. Let's move on to the next one. Coming in at number 5 is Luis Suarez. Now, Luis Suarez was quite famous for nearly joining Spurs, and that was under Harry Redknapp. And Redknapp famously went for another attacking midfielder, shall we say?
Well, no. What happened was we already had Van der Vaart in our team, and I don't think it was Redknapp. Redknapp sent scouts. I actually believe it was Tim Sherwood it was all Tim Sherwood for this, because I believe Sherwood went to watch Luis Suarez play for Ajax, and on a scouting mission. And I think when he saw him play, I think he got man of the match. He was really good, but he said he would be a good player, but he's too similar to Van der Vaart, so it might not be worth signing Luis Suarez, even though we had an opportunity to sign him. Obviously, we ended up not making a bid. Liverpool sold Fernando Torres on deadline day and ended up stealing Suarez in the transfer market, and obviously the rest is history. Became one of the best players in the Premier League, joined Barcelona, won the treble. He became one of the Europe's best players, and Van der Vaart left after one more season, left to join Hamburg. So Tim Sherwood, you get the blame for that one.
Exactly. Tim Sherwood loves to tell us how we made Harry Kane, but he doesn't tell us about how he nearly didn't sign Luis Suarez, or he should have signed Luis Suarez, does he?
We would have easily got top 4. Suarez would have joined that season. Imagine Bale, Suarez, Van der Vaart, Modric in the same team. That was the only thing missing that season. That season we were seriously good. We had Bale, we had Modric, Van der Vaart. The only thing missing was a striker. Because Crouch wasn't really doing it. And if we had Suarez, I think we would have been a different animal. But too similar to Van der Vaart, apparently, although they're totally different players.
Tim Sherwood, this one's on you. And let's move on. Sorry, that was number 6, Luis Suarez. Now it's number 5. And number 5 is Sadio Mane, another player who ended up at Liverpool, a player that was actually shown around the Tottenham training ground.
Yep. Whilst we were in negotiations with Southampton, I believe, I think he was shown around the training ground. He was apparently very impressed. He wanted to join Pochettino at Spurs. I think he liked what he saw, basically. However, the sticking point was a 35 million price tag, which we weren't prepared to pay. We didn't think he was worth 35 million, which back then was a bit more than it is now. Obviously, that would have been pittance now, but 35 million was quite significant. We booked at the price. We only wanted to pay, I believe, 25.
Yeah.
He went for 30. He went for 35 to Liverpool at the end, obviously. And then at the end of the day, because Tottenham was struggling so badly to get anyone in the door, we panic bought Moussa Sissoko on deadline day for 30 million. So we saved 5 million by getting Sissoko, but Mane went to Liverpool and now he's one of the best wingers in the Premier League.
Yeah, another Daniel Levy masterclass there.
Exactly. Saving 5 million and getting a significantly worse player.
Anyway, Moussa Sissoko's the GOAT, so can't have too much complaints there, can we?
Can't complain too well. Imagine Mane in that team, man. Again, we could have had a seriously good team if we just fogged out a little bit more. But Mane, he's so underrated. I think he's up there with the best wingers in the Premier League at the moment. He's consistently getting 20 goals a season.
I think he is the best winger in the Premier League.
Yeah, you could argue that easily. And he's shown he's adapted so well to Liverpool. He's improved so much. And it's such a shame, again, we missed out on him.
All right, and now we've got the top four, and we've got some very, very tasty players on here. Coming in at number 4, probably the one that's going to be freshest in everyone's memory, and that is Paulo Dybala. Me and you were very excited when this news broke, weren't we?
Yeah. We were very excited. Looked for all the world to see it was actually going to happen. It looked like Tottenham were finally actually going to put their balls on the table and sign a world-class player that everyone was calling out for a decent price as well. I think we agreed 58 million for him because Juventus were pretty desperate to get him off the books. Tottenham, it looked like after reaching the Champions League final, we're actually going to push the boat out and go for that serious world game-changing player. The deal was agreed, however, very famously, the sticking point was these image rights that Tottenham didn't want to pay. I think it was about 14 million extra on top of the transfer fee. We spent the whole of deadline day negotiating these image rights. There were some sources saying that image rights wouldn't be an issue, some saying it's going to be a big issue. And then David Ornstein around I think 2 p.m. I remember on deadline day said deals off, and I just remember when as soon as he tweeted that, I just like put my head in my hands like, oh, I can't believe it's actually happened. Because I thought for once it was actually going to happen. Tottenham were actually going to pull it off, but they didn't. They didn't pull it off. We ended up not getting Dybala, and then we didn't get anyone in January. Famously, no striker at all. So I don't know where that money went, but Dybala was another one we missed out on.
Yeah, and it was like they wanted £15 million for the image rights deal. And what did they do a few months later? They spent that £15 million to sack our greatest ever Premier League manager. But anyway, let's move on to number 3. And number 3 is Eden Hazard, a player who as well was in a room, I think it was with Harry Redknapp as well, in a hotel room, and just couldn't get that deal over the line once again.
I think this was actually, this one was a very cruel twist of fate for Spurs, actually, because he was very excited about joining Tottenham at the time. He said he wanted to join Tottenham. They were an exciting young team that he wanted to be a part of. He was excited when he spoke to Harry Redknapp. However, the sticking point is he wanted to play Champions League football. Yeah. And what obviously happened was Harry Redknapp got linked with the England job. We all know what happened in that 11-12 season. Harry Redknapp got linked with the England job. Tottenham's form fell off a cliff. We ended up blowing a 12-point lead ahead of Arsenal in third. We ended up finishing 4th, which in normal circumstances would be good enough to finish in the Champions League. But what happened was Chelsea finished 6th and won the Champions League, famously beating Bayern Munich in the final. And in a cruel twist of fate, due to Chelsea beating us to the Champions League, he opted for Chelsea because he wanted Champions League football. And Tottenham were actually apparently prepared to pay up to 35 million for him. But because we dropped down into Europa League and Chelsea got Champions League, he ended up picking Chelsea ahead of Tottenham. And that twisted the knife even more after missing out on Champions League football. Such a cruel set of circumstances there for Tottenham. Yeah,
it's like when Eden Hazard first started speaking to Spurs, we were about 3rd in the league. Chelsea were nowhere to be seen. And by the end of the season, Chelsea was still nowhere to be seen in the league, but pipped us to that Champions League spot because they won it and we finished 4th. absolutely gutting.
One of the luckiest Champions League runs of all time as well. If you think our Champions League one was lucky, well, you ain't seen anything on Chelsea's run,
You got
because that was 10 times more lucky.
You got players like Messi and I can't remember who else missing penalties to send them
missed in
through.
the final.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
It's just absolutely disgraceful.
ridiculous
But
luck.
I'm still bitter about it now.
Yeah.
But let's move on to number 2. Cast your minds back to the 2002 World Cup. And he goes by the name of Rivaldo, and he nearly joined Tottenham. Do you know the story about this one, Sim?
I don't know specifics, but I know there was talks. But I think Glenn Hoddle was very interested in signing Rivaldo when he was leaving Barcelona on a free. And I don't remember too much about it, but I remember that I think Rivaldo was talking about joining Tottenham as well. And I think there was actual talks between Tottenham and Rivaldo, but I don't think it came to anything at the end of the day. And I don't think Tottenham wanted, because I think he was aging. I don't think Tottenham wanted to push the boat out too much on spending too much money on an aging Rivaldo. But that would have been something to see, a Rivaldo in a Tottenham shirt back then under Glenn Hoddle.
So he actually said very recently in an interview, he said, I was very excited about the possibility of playing for Spurs. And he was going to take Stefan Everson's place in the squad in 2002. In the end, he ended up going to AC Milan, as you do. But if he was to join Tottenham at that time, it would have been a bit like someone like Luis Suarez joining Stoke or something at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. It's true. We were very mid-table. Exactly. Just by who you say he's replacing in the squad shows the level we were at the time. And we actually ended up keeping Everson that summer, and he spent the whole season on the bench. So Rivaldo probably made the right choice at the end of the day. But so it's a shame we couldn't get that one over the line.
All right. And number 1, the player that we should have signed or we could have signed, number 1 goes to Diego Maradona. Now, he actually nearly signed for Spurs twice. The first time he nearly signed for Spurs was after a testimonial for Ozzy Ardiles or Ricky Villa. I actually can't remember which one it was, but he played in that testimonial and he played alongside Glenn Hoddle.
It was for Ozzy.
It was for Ozzy Ardiles. And after this testimonial, Diego Maradona came out and said Glenn Hoddle is the best player he's ever seen, the best player he's ever played alongside him, and he would love to play alongside him. And then later down the line in 1994, after Diego had a few problems in his career, Ozzy Ardiles was managing Spurs, and he had the chance to sign him. He could have signed him. Maradona wanted to play. Teddy Sheringham wanted Ozzy to sign him, but Ozzy decided against it because of all the baggage that he came with.
And that was a lot of baggage, baggies, that's for sure. But at least we had the grace of there's pictures that you can see Maradona in a Tottenham shirt playing in that testimonial now. So at least we've got that side to behold. But yeah, I think in 1994, I think they just played in the World Cup Argentina, and I believe Maradona had scored a goal for Argentina in the World Cup, and then straight after the game, he tested positive after a drugs test, and I think was banned from football. So it was probably a sensible move from Tottenham to not invest in that. But again, that would have been something special if Maradona would have joined Tottenham in either 94 or when after the testimonial. I think it would have been a better option after the testimonial to get one of the game's best ever players to have joined Spurs. And it shows to the quality of and also the friendship Maradona had with Ozzy, that he loved him so much. He wanted to play under him, wanted to play with him for Tottenham. It showed the pool they had and what a difference it made when Ozzy and Ricky both joined Tottenham. It actually put Tottenham on the map around the world, especially in South America. So that would have been special. But I think, 94 was probably a bit too late for Maradona.
Yeah, well, that is our top 10. I've got a few special mentions to give you. Number 1, Georgie Hadji, absolutely brilliant player, nearly signed for Spurs. Ricardo Pereira, who actually, when we sold Kyle Walker, could have joined Spurs. We didn't want to pay his release clause. We ended up paying 10 million less for Serge Aurier. And we know how that one's worked out.
Yeah.
Next one is Emmanuel Petit. You know the story about that one?
No, I don't know the story.
So Emmanuel Petit, very similar to Willian, came over to Spurs, had his medical at Spurs, and then Spurs ended up paying for his cab fare to go over the divide to Arsenal.
Of course we did.
Another one is Charlie Adam. Obviously, you must know the story about that one.
Yeah, that was famously, I believe it was a deadline day of January 2011. We had just failed with bids for Sergio Aguero. And I think Forlan as well, we made a bid for. We needed a striker, but looked like we were going to get absolutely no one. And then I believe 1 hour before the deadline, Levy called up Harry Redknapp and said, you fancy Charlie Adam? And Redknapp was like, yeah, he's a good player. He was like, all right, let's try and get it done. And Levy spent the remaining few hours, or the remaining hour on the deadline, trying to get Charlie Adam from Blackpool. He was having a great season for Blackpool, but obviously time ran out. We didn't end up getting him. But he ended up joining Liverpool at the end, and he wasn't great there, so it was probably a good move. But yeah, very, very close to getting Charlie Adam.
Next one on the list is obviously Aguero, who, like you just mentioned, we fell from the bid by the time we were going for Charlie Adam.
Yeah, next one, 6 months later.
Yeah, next one is Gary Cahill. Now, this is a player where he was at Bolton at the time. In the January transfer window, we were actually pushing for the title that season. And if we made the right signings, I genuinely believe we could have made a title challenge. Harry Redknapp goes and asks for Gary Cahill, and who does he get?
Ryan Nelson. Apparently, Redknapp recently said that we had the potential of getting Carlos Tevez as well.
Yeah,
that's something because he was famously on the golf course for Man City, and he wasn't getting any game time. And apparently, we were interested in getting him on loan, one of those loan deals where City pay the majority of the wages, but we decided against it and ended up getting Louis Salah on the free instead.
Yeah, classic. And the last couple I want to mention, the penultimate is Patrick Vieira. Now, he nearly moved to Spurs under Harry Redknapp, and he was actually very, very close to signing for us, wasn't he, Sim?
On loan. I think he was on loan from Man City or before Man City, from Inter Milan maybe.
From Inter Milan.
I think Inter Milan.
Yeah.
I think we very nearly got him on loan, but he decided to go to Man City instead. So that was under Harry Redknapp. That would have been an interesting signing.
And last but not least, I'm going to mention Willian. Obviously, there's a lot of rumours of him coming to us now. I wouldn't take him with a barge pole. Show him that contract and rip it up in front of his face is what I say. And
the famous story of actually this one is actually my fault why we didn't get Willian.
Exactly.
It's actually my fault because I put when it was released that Willian had a medical at Tottenham. He was pictured coming out of Tottenham after joining his medical, completing his medical. And that night, I edited my FIFA squad and put Willian on Tottenham because I thought the deal was done. Ben warned me, he's like, never ever put a player on your squad on FIFA before it's official. I was like, mate, the deal's done. He's joined Tottenham. Look, he's just come for a medical. The deal's done. We've got Willian. Next day, Chelsea at the 11th hour stump us in a bid. He goes over to Stamford Bridge, signs for Chelsea. And now the only time Tottenham did sign Willian was on my FIFA game. And it's completely my fault. I take full responsibility. I think it was probably got filtered through to Tottenham, I reckon, or Chelsea, that I had done that. And that's what happened. I could take full responsibility for Willian joining Chelsea.
Yeah, exactly. And I haven't forgiven you since, Sim. I've never forgiven you. But yeah, that famous story, he actually had a medical at Tottenham, similar to Petit, and then just went straight over to Chelsea. Abramovich making a very secret transfer for Willian and then stumping all the Spurs fans. But there you have it. That is our April Fool's Day video for the players that Spurs nearly signed. Like, subscribe, and comment below and tell us if there's any players we missed out, or let us know just your thoughts on all these players that we've mentioned. Thanks, Im, for joining me yet again. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.